In 5, 4, 3. Good evening, Canby. Welcome to our January 18th, 2024 meeting. Apologize for the postponement, but we figured public safety and staff safety was a lot more important than holding a meeting on an icy Wednesday evening. So we will get on with our business of the week. If you'll please stand for the invocation and then the Pledge of Allegiance. Dear Heavenly Father, I pray so much for this community every day. I thank you for its leaders. I thank you for the people that are gathered here this evening to support the appointment of our new counselor. I ask that you protect our first responders in these crazy weather conditions that we've had and we do have coming up. I ask you to look over the city of Canby and continue to give it grace in your glory, Lord. In your son's name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next on our agenda is the swearing in of a new city councilor. And Eileen is going to do the honors of swearing in Mr. Sassy before he becomes Counselor Sassy.
This is swearing in, not swearing at, right?
Green means on.
Green means on, as you know. Okay, I've never sworn anybody in before, so I'm excited. So raise your right hand. I'm not swearing in. Okay,
Scott Sassy,
having been duly appointed to the office of City Councilor
have been duly appointed to the office of City Councilor
of the City of
of
Canby
the City of Canby
by the Canby City Council,
by the Canby City Council,
and being first duly sworn on oath, depose and say.
and being duly sworn
on oath,
on oath,
deposed
deposed, and say
that I am a qualified elector of the City of Canby,
that I am a qualified elector for the City of Canby,
that I have resided in the City of Canby, Oregon for not less than 12 months,
that I have resided in the City of Canby for not less than 12 months,
immediately prior to the City Council appointment on January 18th, 2024,
immediately prior to the appointment of City Councilor January 18th, 2024,
that I will support the Constitution and laws
that I will support the Constitution and laws
of the United States
of the United States and the City of Canby
and the State of Oregon,
and the State of Oregon,
and will faithfully perform the duties of the office of City Councilor
and will faithfully perform the duties of City Councilor
of the City of Canby, Oregon,
of the City of Canby, Oregon,
to which I have been appointed.
to which I have been appointed.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. Thank you, and
Thank you.
You can take your seats.
I'm just going to take one picture of.
Big chair.
And if I could just get a quick smile from everybody. 1, 2, awesome. Thank you.
Scott, welcome aboard.
Thank you. Be prepared that your landscaping routes will take you longer.
Yep.
Grocery store runs will take you longer, but you will find that this is quite a fulfilling
Yes.
opportunity. So enjoy it.
And don't
It can't-
forget to push your button.
It can be fun. We are done with the swearing in ceremony. You are all more than welcome to stay. We have some information about Canby area transit this evening, council updates, all sorts of good stuff. So you're welcome to stay, or I'll give everyone a couple minutes if you wish to file out.
Could I say something real
Oh,
quick.
please, Scott, go ahead.
Thank you to my wife. It's her anniversary today. So,
It's
sorry.
on. It's on. It's on.
It's on.
It's on.
And then thank you guys for coming, all of you, city workers. Guys, I know you had a hard day today. Maple blew up, water pipe, but thank you to my neighbors, my buddies, my workers, my friends. Thank you. Let's get to work.
Wait a minute. Maya went upstairs because David and Jason are both having trouble getting in on the Zoom, so she went upstairs to see what happened. She just texted me. I can only go and look at it.
Patton is on. Okay. We're going to continue here in a moment. We're having some, I think, some technical difficulties getting Counselor Patton and our attorney on. Pardon me? He's good. Okay. Do we need to wait for Dukeman?
Can you hear me?
Yes, Jason, we can hear you.
Holla frickin' Luya.
And we are recording.
Yeah, I figured. I can tell you in LeGrand, it is crap.
It's meaning that it's cold and icy.
Meaning that there's snow and cold and ice. I have never driven in snowy conditions like this in many years. It was pretty bad. And I still have 3 hours to go. Okay, let's turn that off. No. Minimize that.
There's some rowdies out there, Scott.
Anybody have any good jokes? Yeah, I have no clean jokes to tell.
We don't have David yet, but I think we can continue with the meeting. So,
All right, thanks, everyone. Sorry about that. I'm going to count us back in for the booth so they can get the recording going again. We're going to get going in 5, 4. Okay, sorry about that, Canby. Thank you very much. So we just swore in our new city councilor, Scott Sassy, and now we'll move into citizen input and community announcements. So this is an opportunity for audience members and citizens to address the city council on items that are not on the agenda. If you are attending in person, please complete one of these yellow cards. They're located on the podium back there by the doors. Please fill that out, bring it into our city recorder, and I will then get it and call you up for your time. Each person is given 3 minutes to speak. You may buy time or have your time given to another person. If you are wishing to speak to us virtually, please contact City Hall before 4:30 on the day of our city council meetings. And so with that, I think I've got first card here is Mr. Greg Perez. Good evening, Mr. Perez.
Good evening. I'm Greg Perez. I live at 121 Northwest 12th Avenue in Canby, Oregon. I'd like to bring up something that has been brought up in the past, and it has to do with parking in the downtown area by the Dahlia building. Now, I know this has been brought to the council's attention probably more than once, but I'm speaking not from the business owners, but patrons that can't park in the front, and there's probably 6 spaces there that are taken all night, which is okay, but there's a no parking. It's a parking there is 2-hour limit, and that's it. But those cars are iced up and were there all day yesterday, early in the morning. Now, I understand we have codes for the city of Canby. Now, if we have codes for the city of Canby, who enforces them? Now, if we have a code enforcement officer, is that their job? Is that something that we can look up to in the future of that being taken care of? Or do we let the individuals that live there continuously park in front of businesses that would probably like a 20%, 15% increase in their business if they had parking? And I would venture to go to these businesses more often if it was convenient, but when you have individuals that park all the way across Wells Fargo during the day and in front of the Dahlia building all the way to Wayward. And I think that there has to be a solution. I don't know if there's an agreement to not do anything, or the 2-hour parking limit is, what's that mean? We spent budget money with city employees installing those, making those, for what? So I think it's time that we need to move forward and find a solution to get this taken care of. Because if you owned a business there, you wouldn't like it. So if you've never owned a business, you really wouldn't like it. So it's just not a good thing. And I hope that with the new, everybody on board, that we can do something. Because I'll monitor it from this day forward to see how that goes. Because I've had another situation that took place, but some things have happened and it was good and some things didn't, but I'm sure it will be taken care of. And I hope that you guys take this seriously, because I don't know if code enforcement has a duty list of what they do each day. And are they accountable for doing these things, or do we need a code enforcement officer? Because we're not doing some of the duties. Thank you.
So thank you for that, Greg. I appreciate it. So I can tell you that for the last couple of years, our code enforcement officer was split time between code enforcement and evidence room at the police station. So we have added another full-time code enforcement officer to the city of Canby. With that being said, most property complaints or parking complaints that are had are just that. They are logged as complaints and then sent to the code enforcement officer to follow up on. So if there's a business that feels that there's parking, people have been parking there well into the morning, then they would need to call that in as an official complaint, which then would generate the code enforcement officer coming out and assessing the situation. That right now, as far as I know, is where we're at. As you know, the day-to-day of a checklist for a code enforcement officer, that is up to Eileen and Chief Tro to decide if that's necessary to do. Downtown parking has always been a debate as to whether or not there's not enough, there's too much. We all love the convenience of parking right in front of the business that we want to go to. And so that's not always the case in our downtown, and I don't know if it'll ever be that case with some of our businesses. So we are aware of it. We know that we've been looking at it. And so if that's something that the council wants to take up, we have our goal setting session coming up here in a couple of weeks. And I'm sure that will come up as an item to take a look at here as we move in through the rest of the year.
Well, you know, this has been going on longer than a year.
No, absolutely. I've been on here for 14 years and it's been an issue for 15 years,
But,
even before we did the Dahlia building.
well, I'm saying from the Deli building till now,
Sure.
we've got an issue. And we need to do something about it. We've talked about it. We're going to look into it. Still no response back to the public on that. And it's a sad thing. I understand you prioritize things, but we need to look at this. Like I say, you don't own a business downtown. It doesn't affect you. Out of sight, out of mind. I spend a lot of money in the community and I'm around every day.
Well,
And
Greg, you and I have been
and like
friends
I
for a
say,
long.
those cars are there all day long.
I understand that. Thank you. I appreciate you coming up.
All right.
Next, I have Brian Samuels and Tim Samuels. Brian, I believe you're selling your time to Tim? Yes, sir. Or did I have that backwards? No, you got it correct. All right, so Tim, you have 6 minutes. All right. How are you, sir?
Doing good.
Good.
My name's Tim Samuels. I actually live in Oak Grove, 3560 Southeast McCartney Lane in Milwaukee. But I spend about 80% of my working life down here in Canby. My family has owned the Oregon Pacific Railroad that runs from Canby out toward Molalla for over 30 years. Been running freight trains out here since before when Fred Meyer was an azalea farm. I mean, I remember when it was farmland. So things have changed a lot in the last 25, 30 years, but most recently in the last 5 years, we've had a lot of trespassers on our railroad tracks, a lot of vandalism, and it's gotten worse since the apartments went in by Fred Meyer and also the middle school was built. The forest trail road that runs along our tracks has no physical barrier between the trail and our railroad tracks. And we have a lot of people that walk down on fabricated trails that walk to Fred Meyer. When Fred Meyer was built, they actually left an opening in the fence so that they could travel, so that people could come in from our railroad right away. And just in the last 5 months, I've had probably at least 3 really close calls. My brother was doing track inspection last week and almost hit a middle school student that was walking across the tracks from Fred Meyer up to the trail and didn't look either way and almost got hit by our Jeep that goes on the tracks. And Brian had to slam on his brakes, and at the last second, kid had his headphones and hoodie on and didn't see anything. So I've seen people actually climb through my train when I've been stopped down there, waiting for my brakeman to come down. I've seen kids go underneath rail cars that I'm actually like attached to and pulling, but not moving at the time. And it's getting to a point now where it's not if, it's when something serious is going to happen. And when it comes to railroads and kids climbing on trains and stuff, I honestly, in running trains for 30 years, I'm terrified of running somebody over and actually finding them, like missing a limb or something. And it's getting to a point, I would guess, if I had to estimate, I haven't actually counted, but I would guess at least 40 to 50 people walk across the tracks any given day. And when we're down there switching, I have kids going between cars when we're kind of broken apart from them, and we're actually like switching cars down there. So what I have done is we are in the process, the Oregon Pacific Railroad is in the process of getting a federal transportation and safety grant. And I want to incorporate a fence that runs from the Highway 99 overpass between the Forest Road and the railroad tracks all the way to the new Sequoia Parkway overpass, because that's direct access for people from the trail to the railroad. And I am asking the city of Canby to pay a portion of the fence, because when we apply for this grant, we have to come up with 20% of the grant. And we want to do a couple of other railroad track infrastructure improvement projects, and we have to come up with about $280,000 total for our part of the grant. And we were hoping that the city of Canby would be able to pay at least $100,000 toward the fence. I've priced the fence, and the fence alone will be about $235,000 to install a fence all the way through there. And so we are hoping that the city of Canby will pay a portion of that fence and basically keep people off of the railroad tracks, at least give a physical barrier so that a lot of people just don't even realize that it's trespassing. And so yeah, that's why I'm here.
Okay. Well, thank you I know that we've had some conversation about the train safety and lack thereof along the tracks
Yeah.
and I think that was something that your dad was very much in support of trying to get something done, and he and I had a couple of conversations about that as well. When is this grant due?
So the grant, it actually hasn't opened for application yet. It's going to be opening in the next couple of weeks. It's about a 3-month, 90 days for us to apply for it.
Okay.
And it won't actually be awarded until late summer, early fall.
Okay.
And if we can, in fact, work something out where the city will pay for a portion of the fence, it won't come due until 2025. So it would be next year before we would even need any of the funding from the city.
So that could be a budgetary item that we discuss later on. Okay. Tonight, obviously, I appreciate you coming and making the ask and telling us what's going on. We're not really going to be able to make a decision this evening on that, but what I'd like council to be able to direct staff to do is maybe meet with the railroad, with the Samuels family here, and meet with them about what's being proposed and what we're looking at, and maybe include Jerry in that conversation as well.
So we did meet today, this afternoon, and I suggested to Tim that he come tonight because the $100,000 request is outside of my authority. It's good to know that he doesn't need the money right away. I think he's going to need some indication of the city's interest in supporting this grant by that 90-day period of time. So it does give you the opportunity to consider this request in your goal-setting session, for example. The other thing that we talked about with Tim today was that, we're trying to minimize the number of people on the tracks and make it a safer condition. So staff, we were talking about the other thing that would make it a safer condition is if we proceeded with a ramp down to the highway from the logging road. And that I know has been discussed as well. That would be about $100,000 as well. So just wanted to, invite Tim to come tonight and put this issue before you. But certainly we will have additional conversation about it. But I think this would be a good topic for your goal-setting session since it's coming up soon.
The other piece too, Tim, so I co-chair the Clackamas County Coordinating Committee, and we deal strictly with land use and transportation. And we're often seeing a lot of like just transportation improvement pieces and grants that come up from the state. And I think that would be something that the coordinating committee would absolutely get behind at a county level. They're always looking for projects just like this to put forward to the state and try to gather some of that money. So that might be worth a conversation with Gary Schmidt or that be Dan, would that be Mike Belsner? Jerry? Besner, pardon me. Would that probably be in his wheelhouse as well? Okay. So maybe when there's a next connection, we can get them connected in this as well. Okay.
Yeah, I've talked with quite a few people with ODOT and with Clackamas County, trying to see if anybody had ways for us to, to help with the 20% match that we have to do. And they're working on a few things, but since this is directly related to Canby and the safety of the citizens of Canby and the children of Canby, and I feel like there should have been some kind of a fence put in at one time with all of the development and with the school. I mean, that school is 200 feet from the tracks, and kids can just walk from recess onto our tracks if they wanted to. And I just, how kids don't make very good decisions, and I would just hate for them to make a really bad decision on our tracks.
I don't know. You and I had a very lengthy conversation about the lack of intelligence by many adults as it comes to play with your train as well.
I've been cussed out by many adults down there on the tracks too,
So, okay, we will add that to our goal setting piece as well. And then let's get you guys with city staff and start, because we're going to want to know total costs and we're going to want to know what kind of a fence we're talking about here, because that's going to be crucial to the conversation as well. So,
great.
And we'll, as soon as we get you guys together, then we'll figure out how to get that on an agenda. So we at least have the pieces in place so that when it does open, that we can start getting involved in that sooner than later.
Okay, yeah, if we could get something figured out within maybe 45 days, that would be great. I don't know if that's within your time frame.
That I will leave to staff to determine whether that's in their time frame or not. So, but yeah, we will definitely get that rolling.
Sounds good.
All right,
Thank you,
sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Maya, do we have anyone online that wants to address the council? No? Okay. That'll conclude our citizen input piece. We are going to move into the consent agenda. Before we move into the consent agenda, item B on the consent agenda has been requested to be, if it's all right with the council, to be moved out of the consent agenda and spoken as a separate item this evening, if that's okay by the council?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're just
So
doing the
then,
minutes.
yep, if I can just get a motion to approve the minutes.
All right, Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda to just include the minutes of the January 3rd, 2024 regular city council meeting.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Jim. Motion's been made by Council President Hensley and seconded by Councilor Jim to approve the minutes of January 3rd, 2024 of the City Council regular meeting. Is there any conversation or discussion on that? None? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
You want me to make a motion so we can discuss the second piece?
And if you'll make a motion to discuss. the
Mr.
second
Mayor,
piece.
I move the approval of a commercial limited on-premises OLCC application for Casa Bella Foods located at 175 North Elm Street.
Thank you. Second. Thank you. Motion been made by Council President Hensley and seconded by Councilor Davis to approve the commercial limited on-premise OLCC application for Costa Bella Foods located at 175 North Elm Street. And discussion. So the discussion items, and Mr. Stearns, I'll let you broach your questions here with the group if you would.
Well, part of it is because I'm new to the council and I'm not certain what we can or can't do as a council as far as the liquor license go. But one of the things I wanted to do, I'm having until recently lived very close to that location, and currently I work very close to that location. It was always concerning whenever there were alcoholic beverage bottles outside of our house. And I'm not sure that that location is a good place to be drinking at. There's no stop sign going down Elm. And just as I mean, Jim Davis can probably speak more to that, but my small time I had as a firefighter, most of the clientele we had as far as from the road seemed to be resulting from alcohol consumption. And I'm sure there's a lot of extra work done by the police because of that. So I think that as a council, that it probably shouldn't be just a rubber stamp unless it really is a rubber stamp and there's nothing that we can, I mean, obviously it's on the agenda so we can vote yes or no on it, I assume. But I'm of the opinion, and several of you I've talked to the opinion, that there may be not a need for more alcohol sold in the downtown Canby area. But that's just my thoughts on the matter. Also, I noticed that they didn't answer whether they had a liquor license or not. That was left blank on the application, but I don't know if that's really a big deal as far as something that can be corrected. But that was my thoughts. And of course, being the first time it's come up in the council since I've been on here, I wanted maybe a little discussion on what the process is, whether we have a policy on how much alcohol is distributed in the downtown and may not have a policy. I don't know. But I just seen a lot of problems as directly or indirectly tied to consumption of alcohol. So.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
Thank you,
Council
Matt.
President Lindsay.
Thank you. I can appreciate your concern on that, Councilor Stearns. And in this particular case, however, I don't see, typically our police chief has to sign off on this first. So we don't even see it unless the police chief sees it and agrees that it's an approvable thing to do. But that food cart is not open late in the evening. So I don't see it being an establishment that would be somewhere people would go to enjoy cocktails and a good time for the evening. I think they're gonna have a glass of wine with their meatballs, and I don't see it being a problem in this consideration. And that's just my opinion, knowing the location and knowing the usage of that property at the time. So I could probably see how you think if it was a bar or even a food cart pod where they were open late with music and such, but I don't see that being the case. So that's just my 2 cents. It sounds like, oh, Mr. Davis next.
Councilor Patton, before I go to you to answer Councilor Stern's question about process, can you walk us through what the process is for obtaining a liquor license?
I'm still getting familiar with what the process is here. It looks like there is a memo from the police chief who is indicating he's reviewed the attached liquor license On January 5th, he spoke with Jerry Yazzolino regarding his application.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Mr. Yazzolino did not sell beer or wine from his food in the past, but would like to offer these beverages options to his customers. Mr. Yazzolino is currently going through the OLCC training and the permitting process. He is aware that any employee selling alcoholic beverages must know the laws regulating the sale of alcoholic beverages and the consequences for failure to comply with the rules as set forth by Oregon state law. It is my recommendation to the Canby City Council to approve this application to the OLCC. I do know from my past experiences that that if there is a concern about an applicant, that those concerns can be attached to the decision to approve or not, well, it's not approve, it's endorse a liquor license application, and that comment by the local body would go with the application to the state. So the city council, as the local governing body, is giving its experience with a particular application, but the actual approval of the liquor license is done at the state level.
So if I can ask a question, and so I always like to, whenever looking at something to vote yes or no on, what the consequence of a yes and what's the consequence of a no vote is. So if we did a no vote, would that stop it, or would that just pause it, or would it be just taken under advisory, or how does that work?
It would be taken under advisement.
So we really don't have the power to stop it or to promote,
No. And David, feel free to chime in here if you'd like to, but
Yeah. I'm happy to. Yeah, I mean, you've
please.
captured it very, very well, Eileen. So I didn't want to steal your thunder, but yeah, the reality is that this is liquor, cannabis now. The regulation of who gets to sell it and where, that's entirely reserved for the state, and so cities can point out, hey, we have a concern, and we're gonna, this is the concern. You'd want to articulate that, and then the state can factor that into their decision. The risk of sounding pessimistic, the few times in the past that I've seen, even kind of more significant, I don't mean to diminish your concerns, Counselor, but where there's been even a history of problems at a certain site. Again, this is in the past, another situation, but OLCC has approved those liquor licenses. So it is not easy. And to just directly answer your question, the city does not have the authority to say yes or no. It's going to ultimately be up to the state.
Thank you. That clarifies things a little bit. I mean, I don't like to cause a lot of trouble over something that doesn't matter anyway, as far as we go. But my concern, I guess it is coming up for approval. So my big concern is having and continuously crossing that intersection. I'm aware of at least some pedestrian vehicle encounters at that intersection. And I assume at that time alcohol was not involved. And if alcohol is more prevalent there, my concern is that, especially that location I walk by, I know what it is. It's an outdoor food cart type situation where people may be walking in to it, and and so that was my concern. But if there's nothing we can do, say yes or no about it anyway, then probably I don't need to object to it too carefully.
Right. The local, stopping the application, stopping by the local governing body is provided for under state law. So clearly the OLCC wants to hear from the local community if there is any concerns that the local community has about that. But as David said, the final decision is the state's.
Counselor Patton, you had something you wanted to say?
Yeah, my concern isn't so much about this particular food cart, but I don't know if this actually, I'm kind of going into the Wayback Machine here and going back to when we were having the discussions about allowing food cart and food cart pods into the city, if we had a real discussion about what it would look like if a food cart wanted to have a liquor license. I can tell you in my process of going through that on the planning commission at the time, that did not cross my mind. My concern is that if memory serves me correctly, the food carts can pretty much be anywhere within the city limits as long as they fill out a permit. And so essentially, we could have alcohol throughout all the neighborhoods, like wherever a food cart pod wanted to set up. And so that is what sort of pops into my head, and it's kind of a pause for concern about, is that something that we want to do? What do other food cart pods do? Or what do other like municipalities that have food carts allow? It just seems like a weird slippery slope to me. I don't know what other people think.
Well, I think so I'll come back to that. So as we talked earlier, Councilor Stearns too, we recently, we had on our council, Councilor Ryder, who just recently passed away. Whenever there was a liquor license that was part of the consent agenda, he always voted no on the consent agenda because he just didn't feel that, I think he was much to your sentiment, either doesn't, being a pastor and seeing and working with people that have been dealing with that, it was just something that he, in his conscience, just felt, no, I don't want to approve it. So he was often a no, and that's fine. That's what we're up here to do. And if there are reasons, as you've called out about that intersection and whatnot, I think that is things that we can now call out when we submit this or move it on, so that those are not going to fall on deaf ears. And I know Canby PD would be very much, they want to know, they can't see everything, but they may want to know those concerns as well. So I say, vote how you feel you need to on those pieces. Jason, I think you're opening up conversation on a whole nother topic with the food cart piece, and where we know that there's zoning for it. We know where they can and can't go. They're not going to open up over by in Tofty Farms on an empty lot and have, beer and wine or cocktails popping up out there. So, but if that is something that we need to do a better job of, I guess, breaking down, then that would be something that we should probably do. Okay. Does that answer your questions, Councilor Stearns?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It does answer your
Okay.
question.
Any other discussion on pieces regarding this at all right now? Okay, so we have a motion on the table for us to approve the commercial limited on premises OLCC application for Coastal Bella Foods located at 175 North Elm Street. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Well, Jason, I'm sorry, I didn't hear yours.
I was actually going to abstain because I don't feel like I have enough information to vote yay or nay on this.
So you have a 2-2.
Okay.
Did we table it or?
No, the mayor has to vote.
No, in instances of a tie like this, I get to vote. And so I'm a yes on this. So it passes 3-2-1. Okay, great conversation. I appreciate it. Definitely, I think something we'll be discussing more coming up. Next up is ordinances and resolutions. First item is ordinance number 1615, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to make, execute, and declare in the name of the city of Canby on its behalf an appropriate lease agreement with Zimmer Ventures LLC of Canby, Oregon, to provide leased office space for Canby area transit located at 195 South Hazeldale Way through December 2025 in its second reading. We have our transit group here. We did hear this a couple weeks ago, but Todd, would you like to take us through the importance of us moving forward with this?
Todd Wood, Transit Director, and I have Heidi Muller, Transit Coordinator with me. She's going to handle the next ordinance for us. So again, we lease office space at Hazeldale Way from Zimmer Enterprises Incorporated. The question last week was about the taxes, and the answer this week is I have not got a full answer yet. I did talk to the landlord about the taxes. The taxes don't affect the lease. They actually affect the triple net. So if the county determines that we owe the taxes, it'll be added to our triple net. The taxes aren't as bad as I thought they were. They're just the last year's taxes, and not the full amount of taxes that the county's trying to collect. I have attempted to contact the county, but the county seems to be closed an awful lot these days. And so I have a call in. I'm hoping to hear back. They're unfortunately closed again tomorrow. The person who's in charge is not there at all this week. And so hopefully I can hear back next week. So I don't have an answer as to whether or not I can get the county then, once the lease is signed, to go back and put us back into the exempt status, or if I will owe last year's taxes. It's not a terrible amount. We can easily cover it, but I don't have an answer for whether or not I'm gonna have to pay it or not. So that's the short and long.
The joys of being
Yeah.
a pass-through situation here.
Yeah, at the end of the day, without this signed, I have no choice. I owe the taxes last year, this year, next year, until I leave, you know, so I would like to get it signed regardless.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
It's not that we owe the taxes.
No,
The landlord owes the taxes, but
So for all technical purposes, the landlord owes the taxes, but the landlord can pass those taxes directly to the tenants. And in this case, the landlord is passing the taxes directly to the tenants in that building, of which there are only two. He is actually fairly graceful. There are only two tenants and 4 doors, and he's only asking us to pay a quarter. He could ask us to pay half and split it between the two, but he's only asking us to pay a quarter. So again, been fairly good to us. So I want to make sure that he's taken care of as need be.
okay, thank you, Todd, appreciate that. Any other questions for staff on this one?
No, Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt ordinance number 1615, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to make, execute, and declare in the name of the city of Canby on its behalf an appropriate lease agreement with Zimmer Ventures LLC of Canby, Oregon, to provide leased office space for Canby Area Transit located at 195 South Hazeldale Way through December 2025.
Second.
Motion's been made by Council President Hensley and seconded by Chief Davis to approve ordinance number 1615, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to make, execute, and declare in the name of the city of Canby and on its behalf an appropriate lease agreement with Zimmer Ventures LLC of Canby, Oregon, to provide leased office space for Canby Area Transit located at 195 South Hazeldale Way through December 2025. And it's a roll call vote. Any discussion? Yes, Councilor Davis.
Just question, do we know the amount of the taxes?
I don't know the exact amount. The bill I saw was about 5,000.
Okay, and is it budgeted for?
It's not technically budgeted for, but I have more than enough contingency to cover it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Excellent. Any other questions or discussion items? All right. Councilor Patton, anything?
I'm good.
All right. Then we'll do a roll call vote.
Councilor Patton?
Aye.
Councilor Stearns?
Aye.
Council President Hensley?
Aye.
Councilor Sassy?
Aye.
Councilor Davis?
Aye.
All right, that motion carries 5-0. Next on our agenda this evening is ordinance number 1616, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to execute a contract with Angel Tracks LLC of Dothan, Alabama, in the amount of $86,263.28 to provide camera systems for Canby area transit vehicles. And Ms. Mueller is going to present.
Yes. Heidi Muller, I'm Transit Coordinator for Canby Area Transit, and we have a fleet that has been equipped with camera systems for our buses since 2016. Many of them are older systems that need to be updated. They're actually going out of date and kind of antiquated. And so we went out for a bid. I put in requests out with 3 vendors, and I got responses back from 2. And Angel Tracks is actually our current vendor, and they came in at a lower bid price just because we have a lot of the equipment already in place. So a lot of our camera systems are used for surveillance, for training, accident investigation, complaint investigations, and police requests at times when they have a criminal investigation. So this is just to update and upgrade some of the older equipment and to improve some of our other current equipment that we have.
And we did have lengthy conversation about this coming up at our budget process. So
Yes, we budgeted 130,000 for this this fiscal year, so this won't even exceed that.
great. Any questions? Counselor Davis,
No question. Ready to make a motion.
please do.
I move to approve ordinance number 1616, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to execute a contract with Angel Track LLC of Dothan, Alabama, on the amount of $86,263.28 to provide camera systems for Canby area transit vehicles to a second reading on February 7th, 2024.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made by Counselor Davis and seconded by Counselor Stearns to approve ordinance number 1616, an ordinance authorizing the city administrator to execute a contract with Angel Tracks LLC of Dothan, Alabama.
I think it's Dothan.
Dothan, in the amount of $86,263.28 to provide camera systems for Canby area transit vehicles and to come up for second reading on February 7th, 2024. Any other discussion items? Not seeing any hands waving. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, anyone opposed? That passes 5-0. Thank you both.
very much.
Appreciate it. Yep. Old business, city attorney recruitment. No updates on that piece.
No updates.
Perfect. Mayor's business, I don't have much other than just to say thank you to the Public Works team and city staff and Canby Fire and Canby PD about just the last 5 days have been pretty wild and woolly out there, and everybody's done a great job of keeping Canby running as best as it can. I know there's often a lot of conversation when we get snow like this about why doesn't Canby have a snow plow?
We didn't even get snow this time.
I'll let the city council fight that one out. I grew up in the Midwest. We don't need a snow plow here, but it's fine. So yeah, de-icer, salt, all works. We're relatively flat here. It's okay. The only thing that I have this evening, so Clackamas County Coordinating Committee, I went over that last meeting, and then tolling, I'll have something with the next meeting about that. Really wanted to talk about with the council this evening is some of our liaison positions. We do have Counselor Sassy, who's now with us, and we do have a couple openings that were vacated when Counselor Bangs resigned. And generally speaking, we tend to roll those over to the newly appointed one, but the other one that we have to talk about is the Bike and Ped Committee. Counselor Maldonado has asked to have another counselor take that on if they're interested, just with his workload and whatnot. Lately, it's been harder to make those liaison roles happen. So we've got the Bike and Ped Committee, the Library Advisory Board, the Heritage and Landmark Commission as well. Those are the three that currently do not have someone. So I'm hoping,
We did a bike event because I do spend a lot of my time walking around Canby, so it gives me a qualification at least on the ped part and on the bike part.
great, thank you, Counselor Stearns. So that meets the second Tuesday of each month at 6:30 in the evening in the Mount Hood Room.
I may only be able to do half hour for the first couple of months just because I'm in the Canby alumni choir. Which
Oh,
is 7.
okay.
That should keep on in about 2 months, so sometimes.
Counselor Sassy, how do you feel about the Library Advisory Board and the Heritage and Landmark Commission?
It's fine. I know people on both, so it's fine.
And we officially have 3 openings on committees now. The Budget Committee, the Parks Committee, and the Transit Committee, because he's officially up here now.
So that, yes, that was discussed here with staff about the opening now for our budget chair, but we will address that when the time comes. Yes, he could still be chair of that as well. So I'm sure we'll get those openings on our other boards and committees posted coming up. So that's all that I really had this evening to talk about. We'll move into counselor comments and liaison reports. Counselor Patton, anything?
Yeah, so I attended the planning commission meeting the other night, and they re-elected Mr. Ellison as chair and Mr. Ewert as vice chair. And they discussed and approved the new building at the Clackamas County Fairgrounds, or the Clackamas County Event Center. I had a very interesting conversation with some citizens in the back of the room who didn't quite understand how the process is supposed to work, and were getting quite hot and bothered about it, and settled them down. So that was good. I felt like I actually contributed there. That was nice. The Canby Utility Board meeting, they did a financial update. The finances are looking good at Canby Utility. They had a few outages. One was for a branch they figured was a branch that they could not find the branch, but assumed that the power outage was from that. Another one, I can't remember. And then another one was a squirrel met an untimely end when it touched things that it shouldn't have. So yay, one less squirrel in the city of Canby. Oof. And then I just want to say for the Willamette Falls Landing and Heritage Commission, they are having an event this Sunday called Hard Hats and Hot Dogs at the Old Westland City Hall. So if you have an interest in touring the Old Westland City Hall to see what it is like, and get a hot dog, and then come back and see when the renovation is done, you are more than welcome to either get a ticket from the website, or I imagine if you show up that day and there's still quite a few tickets left, you can go ahead and do that. I guess one of the things that I would just like to circle back on from our earlier conversation was how those liquor licenses for food carts play into the food cart ordinance that we created. I'm just curious as to what the planning department's thoughts are on that. And that's pretty much it for me.
Counselor Patton, and I'll ask you simultaneously with our city administrator. So would that be something then that, to me, I would think would come up as something the planning commission should vet out before it came to us to have conversation on? Am I wrong in that process?
Are you asking Counselor Patton or me?
I'm asking, well, both of you, because Counselor Patton was chair of the planning commission for a period of time, and you because you're our city administrator. So I would think process-wise, it would go through the planning commission first to flush
I
out.
think as a city councilor, it's not a problem for a councilor to want to make sure that their question is clarified, and then if it is a thing, then yes, it would go back to the planning commission. But I don't see why if a city councilor had a question about that they can't get that answered.
Yeah, I was thinking, Mayor, that, we will take this issue, refer it back to the planning department. I think that if there are code changes that need to be made, those should be vetted through the planning commission before they come to the city council. But let me take the issue and mention it to the planning director, and we'll get back with the council.
So it seemed to me, Councilor Patton, you're looking for where are we currently at and what does that potentially open things up for? And if it's something.
Yeah, I guess for me, I mean, it could be a moot point. I mean, it could be that it's already taken care of. And if Eileen or somebody comes back to me and says it's all covered, leave it alone, then that's great. But if they say, oh, we really didn't take that into consideration, maybe that's something we need to dig into, then, I would put a pin in it or I'd say, hey, maybe this is something that we should revisit and have the planning commission deal with it, because eventually it would come to us anyways. And then I would just put a pin in it until that point.
Yeah, if there's a change to be made in that code, I would suggest that, that could be identified. The council could say that there's interest in looking at that, but that the planning commission would vet that code change first.
Great. Thank you. Anything else?
Yeah,
Council?
I'm not suggesting that we circumvent the planning commission. I'm just asking the question.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Council President Hensley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to echo your appreciation for our public works and first responders teams. It's been a heck of a weekend, and we really kind of got off a little bit easier than the last time, but still a lot of work for you folks. So I appreciate everything you did. I did attend the last school board meeting. I was going to mention at the last meeting, but I kind of derailed myself with my little public service announcement and forgot to mention that the Turning Point USA students did speak at that meeting, and it kind of got omitted from the board notes that go out to parents. So I just want to make everybody aware that they did a very good job presenting their case. They want to add a right to the Students' Bill of Rights that would give them the right to have a student designated safe person, whether it be a parent, teacher, or trusted adult, to represent them when they're called in to the administration and talk to an admin or staff. And I can't really say how well it was received by the entire board, but I will say that there was a motion made and seconded, so it will be brought up in their April winter policy review. So if parents are interested in supporting the kids in this, they should probably email their board members about that. On the Traffic Safety Commission front, we did have them, they did talk again about that ordinance for lowering the speed reduction in that one neighborhood. And they're going to kind of like vet out some criteria on how those ordinances will come back going forward, so that not everybody and their brother wants to have their neighborhood lowered by 5 miles per hour. So they're going to come up with what kind of criteria it would take to have that trigger. And so that might help everybody. I know that came up in the interviews last week too. And so it was just funny because it was that day that we had that meeting. But they are going to be fleshing out some criteria and bring those proposals to city staff. And finally, the mayor and I did attend the memorial service for Councilor Ryder, our former colleague. And I just wanted to give him a little posthumous appreciation, because he was very integral in this council when this building was brought up. And his name's not on the plaque. I've always felt it should have been, but I just kind of wanted to give him kudos for all of his work and on this council with us, and wish his widow some peace and grace. That's all I have.
Thank you very much. Councilor Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. Park and Rec had to cancel their meeting, so I gave the report at the last meeting in regards to Park and Rec. Numerous projects, and really appreciate the work that the Park and Rec Committee is doing. And we need to stay on top of those projects that are slated. They're doing some great work. I would too like to thank the city as well as Public Works for the storm response. I don't know how many people know it, but we do have a group me that we talk to all of our partners, from the school district to Public Works to Canby Utility with the city administrator, myself. And we were pinging back and forth, keeping everybody informed as to what was going on within the city. And that works very effectively in regards to keeping track of things that are happening, and school closures, road closures, things like that. So I just wanted to thank everybody for their work on that as well. I just wanted to circle back to the Dahlia parking that was brought up earlier today. Is it possible that we could just have the code enforcement person go and talk to the building management there and encourage them to park where they're supposed to park?
Yes, it is possible, and we will follow up on that.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. And fire department wise, we've been very, very busy. Obviously, the fire department has staffed up an additional 2 to 3 firefighters on 24-hour shifts to deal with the emergencies. Firefighters are doing a tremendous job responding to the medical emergencies that have been brought up with the urgent care being closed down and people having difficulties getting to the hospital. We found ourselves increasing on medical emergencies in regards to getting them to the hospital. And just as a reminder to people too, this won't be our last freeze. I anticipate this winter. So just be prepared. We escaped the wind, but people do remember that we have had some windstorms. So prepare for that. Think about generators, think about survival kits. Just watching the news on what some people are dealing with in Portland and Lake Oswego and those other areas, they're really struggling. So now's a good time to actually look at that. And then when we do freeze, really seriously think about how, if you do have heat in your businesses, to please keep the heat on from keeping the pipes from freezing, because we've responded to numerous broken pipes, as the mayor well knows from his own experience.
Not my house, fortunately.
Not at
but
his house.
yeah.
Not at his house, but so please keep your heat on during the freezing events because you'll prevent a lot of damage as well. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Since you brought it up, Jerry, would you mind coming to the table, please? I just wanted you to come up here because you're here, so I wanted you to know. So speaking of the generators, how many of those did we provide out this year or for this storm?
We have, again, Rotary Ready provided 20 chainsaws and 20 generators. We have a total of 24 generators. This last episode, we handed out 3.
Okay.
And it was mainly somebody who lost their house at a structure fire and power was shut down. He had a trailer and back that he needed a generator for. But this is a good time to put a plug in for the Rotary. Not only do they have the generators, but they also have provided us with the trailer that we can take around town and plug in where people can charge their cell phones and have internet access. And Rotary just recently purchased the second trailer, and the volunteer work, the Rotary volunteers are getting together to put that second trailer available. And Jerry very nicely donated a space to put the trailers under cover out of Public Works for us too.
Great.
Which is nice. We have the new generator at Public Works to keep that charged. Yeah, no, thanks for calling me up, Mayor. I was thinking I was going to have to raise my hand. But,
Jerry,
no,
good job to you and your crews.
Yeah, I was low key on this one. They handled it all on their own. It was really impressive with everyone. And like Councilor Davis said, with the communication, we all knew what was going on. Even like this time having transit involved, Todd Wood was out and about keeping us. I mean, that even helped us out of town knowing what was going on. The other thing, I don't want to steal this from Eileen if it was under her report, but I wanted to mention Kahoot. Josh Brown and Chris Wright were amazing at communicating with the city. And those poor gentlemen were out driving around all night trying to figure out ways to open up garbage service. And it just was almost impossible for them to do that without putting their crew at risk. And we had a leadership team meeting today. Got to talk to George Trow, Todd Wood with Transit, myself, and I don't know about Canby Fire, but we had no injuries or no damaged equipment in this event on our end. So that's kind of a big thing for us. So we were excited that we were able to get through this and take care of your guys' equipment you buy for us. So
Perfect.
yeah.
Thank you, Jerry.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Real quick, Jerry, while you're there, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, may I have one quick thing?
Why, of course.
I forgot to mention my thanks as well to Public Works and other folks, but correct me if I'm wrong, it is the responsibility of the homeowners and such to maintain their sidewalks in front of their homes and such in events like this, correct?
That is correct. And city staff, we tried to keep our public building sidewalks opened up for this event.
Yeah, so I guess I just wanted to put out a PSA that, I mean, I shoveled my sidewalk off because I grew up in the Northeast, so that was just one of the things you had to do. But, just as a reminder to folks in the city, if you have a sidewalk in front of your house and you do not maintain it and something was to happen, you, I believe, are liable. So that's just something for people to keep in mind.
Thanks for that reminder.
So Jason's got sidewalks and streets and I've got leaves.
And we'll do City Hall.
And got it. Okay. Thank you, sir. Counselor Stearns.
One thing I want to bring up, which probably has been brought up many, many times, but I just want to bring it up anyway, is we just had this ice storm, and having also grown up in a different area, it always puzzles me why there is not any de-icing done on the roads in Canby. I've been in smaller towns than Canby where de-icing was done. And I assume the reason why we're not doing it is probably has to do with money, cost, I'm sure. Most things boil down to that, but we ask ourselves, what is the cost of not de-icing? Because basically we have about 5 days where people were afraid to go around town. Businesses were not fully open. I know it was hard to keep my business open. I certainly wasn't going to get clients come in during those conditions. The schools have kind of been shut down. They went to distance learning, but that's not really worth anything. Having a son involved in distance learning, I watched it happen from behind his back. So I just wanted to, maybe a discussion needs to happen on the cost of not de-icing versus the cost of de-icing. And I think sometimes we assume that the cost for not de-icing is zero, but what we see, there's a lot of actually cost for not de-icing the roads. And so I know it's possible. Many cities do it. I've been in cities that have done it. And this temperatures that we had, although we're below freezing, they were not below where normally de-icing measures work, at least in my experience.
Jerry, welcome back.
Yeah, thanks for having me back. Yeah, Councilor Stearns, thanks for bringing that up. We are set up for de-icing, and we have we don't have a full facility, but we have a relationship with ODOT, so they provide us with the actual de-icing, and we have a good where we go out and fix some stuff on 99 potholes and all that, and we kind of do some trading and stuff. But with this amount of ice, my experience when I worked for ODOT putting de-icing down is, we put it down 14 gallons per lane mile was on normal ice situations. At this, we tried putting it down 100 gallons per lane mile, and it wouldn't cut this amount of ice. And so to do that, the amount of mag chloride that we'd have to have on hand would be, we just don't have a facility big enough to provide an ice to cut that much ice. I'm wondering I'm trying to read up about salt and stuff like that, why we don't use that around here. But what I have noticed that talking with the Public Works crew, we regrouped actually today and had a conversation exactly what you're talking about. And where we struggled this time is it was so bad on the outskirts, even the Public Works people had trouble getting in. You know, it was so dangerous. I don't know, county struggled with getting sand out and stuff. So we're kind of an island here. So I think, Councilor Stearns, your point is valid. We need to figure something out so that we can deal with this in town here for ourselves. So we heard you and we're working on that. So it might be more sand, more different types of de-icing material. And I might be coming to you after budget cycle to buy some more stuff for that. So to answer your question, we are looking into this.
Okay, because I assume salt is still available, and it's just, it's not the first ice over event I've had in, Canby, where it seems like the whole city shuts down and they cancel the schools even for a threat of a snowflake before the snowflakes are actually visible, and it just seems like an odd situation, having lived in other places where where such an event as we've had wouldn't be a major disruption.
I agree. We are not set up like they are. There's a lot of people that have moved here from Canby that don't understand our methods, but we're now starting to get these events yearly, so we're gonna have to adjust for it. So I don't know if I answered your question, but we understand your concern and we were looking into it.
Well, thank you. And I think it's something we should continue to address, either if budget is the issue, just to come up with a cost of, of what we would like to pay. And like anything budgeted, it's not an all or nothing. It maybe it's just some roads, or maybe that could be de-iced and maybe not all, and that sort of thing. I had one more thing, thank you, that I want to just address a little bit about what Greg Perez talked about, the parking issue. And just to give up my perspective, which may be false or maybe not false, but since I've been in Canby and I've had a business in downtown Canby on Grant and 2nd Street for the last 13 years, I've always been under the impression, and it was confirmed, maybe not officially, but several times by city officials in the past, that the city is not enforcing parking on those signs. And I've gone with that assumption and it's been right for the last 13 years. I've never seen a parking ticket being issued. And if that were to change that, I guess that could change, but I think you would want to make sure we inform people who otherwise, because I have clients all the time that come in, I got to run out right now and run around the block so I don't get, a parking ticket. I said, no, don't worry, Canby doesn't issue parking tickets, because a lot of my clients stay more than 2 hours because frankly, they're in trouble with the IRS and they have a lot of stuff to worry about. But but if there is a situation where the policy will change, because I believe from what either it is or it's perceived to be right now, that appropriate notice be given out, maybe warnings to start out with or something, so it doesn't blindside the businesses like mine who are under the assumption that parking signs are decorative only, and maybe that's not the way it should be, but that's the way we've treated it for the past 13 years without anybody telling us differently.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Sassy.
I have no liaison report, so I just want to thank everybody for coming tonight. That was nice. Thank you, guys. I agree with the parking, Greg. My wife and I, we've battled parking for years, 20 years. I know there's a master plan on that. Maybe we can bring that up in goal setting. But I agree. We complained back then. We had business owners parking where our customers should have been. And that was 15 years ago. So it is an issue. I'm glad you brought it up again. I will stay on that because I would like to see that done. And I forgot there's one gentleman from Texas watching us on YouTube, my son. Thank you. That's it. Yep.
That's great. Before we move on, I do thank you, Councilor Davis, just to remind the community that we are in the midst of doing our comprehensive plan, which is basically how we are going to grow the city of Canby over the next 20 years and beyond. And so we have our third community summit or community input meeting, and that is going to be on Wednesday, January 24th from 6 o'clock to 8 p.m. So 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And that's going to be at Baker Prairie Middle School. So they will be looking at just getting the community's input on a lot of aspects of what the comp plan is going to look like coming up and where we're going to grow. So please, the more input, the better. Otherwise, you're leaving it to the 7 of us up here, and that's probably not the best idea. So mark your calendars, January 24th, 6 to 8, Baker Prairie Middle School. I think that concludes councilor comments and liaison reports. We'll move into city administrator business and staff reports.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. I too want to say thank you to staff for and to the community for the response this week. It was kind of hairy, scary. We did take, as Councilor Davis mentioned, between the group chat group, and my leadership team group on my text, I was going back and forth between my two phones for the last 3 days. And as Jerry said, we had a leadership team this morning, and we kind of debriefed what we could do better. And we learned some of these facts, like there were no injuries or, no city equipment damaged or anything like that. But, being this was the first emergency that, we really had, that it was important for me to, to allow for some debrief time at the leadership meeting this morning. So that was good. Certainly there's always things we can do better, but it was good. It was a good response. And I'm especially proud of, our team's response. As Jerry said, Todd was out there, and, it was just a great response. So. Other than that, I don't have anything to highlight on the bi-monthly reports. Do you have any questions on the bi-monthly reports? So, okay, that's all I have.
Okay. Second opportunity for citizen input. I think we did have.
Mr. Mayor, I'm
Yes.
sorry, I thought of one other thing.
Oh, yes.
This is just a reminder that we do have our goal setting session coming up, that we are preparing a status report on last year's goals for the council to consider. But also, I don't know if you've had your interviews yet, but there's a core strengths assessment that you should be completing, as well as don't ignore the comments or the interview request. So I just wanted to remind the council about that as well.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. Mr. Perez.
Yes. Greg Perez. I just wanted to know, because people ask me, where is the party at on the beer library? What is the holdup? Do they have a timeline of when they're going to start, or when they get funding to do this? And that's my question.
That's a great question, Greg.
City doesn't know?
No, well, I can tell you that what I know of where it's at right now is that it has gone through a couple of different changes. And so my understanding is that their intent is to try to have this open, here before summer, but, so it's really on them to be working on that and getting that done. So, I mean, there is a time commitment or time piece to that, Eileen.
Yeah, I don't know much more than that, Mayor, but I do know that progress is being made on it. So I will have Jamie get a hold of you and let you know what the status is.
Yeah, and the reason I ask is it's been years now that we're looking at, and I know there's holdups along the way, finances and so forth. So that was just my question, and I think the community needs to know because they want to know. And we get a little blip in the newspaper and then that's it, but they'll all know now. Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Counselor Patton.
I believe a few Canby Heralds ago, there was an update as to the progress of where they were at as far as design changes, going through the planning commission, starting construction in order to adhere to their grant. So I can't remember when that was, but I believe there was something in the Canby Herald a few months ago with an update. Anything other than that, I'm not aware of, but I just wanted to throw that out there.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Okay. Any other citizen input? No, not seeing anyone else rushing the table. Action review.
You have approved the consent agenda, adopted ordinance 1615, and approved ordinance 1616 to a second reading on Wednesday, February 7th, 2024.
Perfect. Thank you. Next up, we do have an exec session here this evening. So
Mayor?
I will take a motion to move to exec
I
session.
move that we go into executive session pursuant to ORS 192.660, parent 2, parent I, performance evaluation of a public officer.
Great, thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of moving to executive session?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So, Canby, thank you for being here this evening. We are going to move into an executive session, and it's only representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on the deliberations during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No decision may be made in executive session. If a final decision on any matter is necessary, the council will make that decision when it is in regular session. At the end of the session, there will be no further business. So, Canby, we wish you adieu. Good night. Thank you for being here. Congratulations, Mr. Sassy, or I should say, Counselor Sassy. We're glad you're here. Thank you, Canby. Good night.
Have like 3 minutes or so?
Yes.
Thank you.
Take 5.
Take 5. Oh, wow, thank you.
I believe are we staying in here?